welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. No news today. Nice little departure. But I did watch a movie last night. And I'm assuming if you have basic reading comprehension skills, you can probably guess what that movie was from the title of this. And that would be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I saw this movie in theaters twice, and I debated seeing it a third time. And I watched it the third time now. But I watched it, on Disney+. The IMAX Enhanced Edition. And I gotta say, it's like, when you watch a movie like this, your thought goes to, like, what could have been. And you're hearing reports now about who didn't make the cut of the movie. Like, apparently Ghost Rider was going to be in it. Apparently Baldur the Brave was going to be in it. Apparently, all these other people were going to be in it. But at this point, it's like, well, why? Why is it that we what would that have added to the story to have these characters in? I think it would have been interesting. Like, allegedly, there's a deleted scene that was shot but didn't make the movie with Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender. It would have been interesting to see those two interact. If they did interact in that scene, I'm talking about Patrick Stewart, Charles Xavier, and are you kidding me? Fucking geese. Like Charles Xavier, as played by Patrick Stewart, and Magneto, as played by Michael Fassbender, because they're two different, like, early and young are two kind of different characters for these two, where it's like one's the idealistic young one, and the other is, the adult grizzled, I've seen things. So to see the two of them play against each other would have been cool, but I think that ultimately cutting it benefited the movie a little bit. I think, too, that the cameos didn't really serve a purpose. Like, when you watch No Way Home, every character in No Way Home has a reason narratively for being there, beyond just, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have all three cinematic Spider-Man on screen at the same time? There is a reason for it. It's they need these characters to help Peter move past the death of Aunt May. There's a narrative purpose for them being there. I think that the Illuminati scene works just as well with any selection of Marvel characters, even if they were just from 616 Marvel Cinematic Universe. Even in that case, it still would have worked. Now, looking at what this movie, ended up being, I feel like those cameos don't really add too much to the story. Besides, I feel like the thing is, the way they're going to integrate in all of these other properties is going to be through the next Avengers movie, which I think is going to be encouraging. And I think that's going to be announced at San Diego Comic-Con, because they announced that Marvel Studios is going to have a San Diego Comic-Con panel in Hall H, which the last time they did that was 2019, when they announced the Phase 4 slate, which we're currently in the middle of now. So I think doing that there, and then using D23 as more of a platform to announce, other TV projects or things in the works, it's a weird situation for them, because I feel like they get equal press no matter where they announce it, but I feel like D23 is a wider audience. San Diego Comic-Con is a wider audience than D23. So I feel like that's where it's going to end up going to announce this stuff, because the in-person audience is bigger and not already pot committed. If you go to D23 and you announce things, it's like everyone who's at a Marvel panel at D23 is probably already pot committed to seeing this, because it's a fan convention that you need to pay a lot of money to Disney to be able to buy tickets, and then buying tickets is also expensive, and then you need to go to Anaheim to attend, whereas San Diego Comic-Con is like, okay, you don't like Marvel, you don't like Star Wars, you don't like DC, there's independent comics publishers, there's industry experts, there's all these other people there who can, give additional information and do additional things. So it gives you a wider thing. Plus, the other thing it does is it allows you to suck the air out of the room for other announcements. So, like, if at San Diego Comic-Con in a few weeks, they announce, Fantastic Four's release date, who's directing Fantastic Four, Avengers 5, and then, like, a bunch of other stuff, that sucks the air out of the room for whatever DC brings. So, like, if DC brings a first-look trailer of Shazam, or a first-look trailer of, I would assume probably not The Flash, but if they bring a first-look trailer of, like, of Aquaman, then that would effectively cut them off at the pass. So it does make sense to do something there, and I think that's going to be the big announcement there. It's going to be that Incursion is the next big Avengers movie, because that allows them to fold in X-Men and, the Inhumans and all of these other big concepts, and then move along from there while doing that. And I think that's the thing, too. It's like, all right, so we want to move forward. We don't necessarily need to use, these biggest names. And that's, I feel, here's the thing, though. I think that we're not going to get a Fantastic Four without Mr. Fantastic. I think guaranteed we get, Mr. Fantastic on the Fantastic Four. And I think that's going to be like a 616 thing. I think you could do an interesting Inhuman story where how does Attilan react to the death of Black Bolt? What does that look like? And you could do an interesting X-Men story. How do the X-Men deal with the death of Charles Xavier? And then it gives you the ability to use, for Inhumans it's a little different because we haven't had a copious amount of Inhumans content in the past. But for the X-Men, we're familiar with the X-Men at this point. We've seen the X-Men. We've seen, 3, 6, 7, 3 Wolverine movies, that's 10, 2 Deadpool movies, that's 12, and then there was a big Gambit movie. So 12 movies have come out with the X-Men in a focal point, and we're familiar with these characters. We know the plot points. We know how things work. We know all of that. What we don't need is additional, having it be there relative to Professor X. I think how do they deal with the power vacuum left behind by Professor X is a much more interesting idea. And that gives you a way to introduce Magneto in a big role that's not necessarily Magneto the bad guy as we've seen him all through history. It gives you the ability to introduce him as, member of the Brotherhood of Mutants. And then it gives you this ability to bring in the mutants and do the mutants, the human fear of mutants storylines in a way that feels different. So there's plenty of opportunity with an Incursion storyline. And I feel like if they're going to do Incursion, like when you watch the first 2 Avengers movies, Avengers and Age of Ultron, those are very much Iron Man movies that have a bunch of other characters. So it's Iron Man as the focal point. He's the lead. But Thor and his support, and Loki are there, and you have all these other supporting characters. But very much the movie's an Iron Man movie. And I think that's really what they're teasing throughout the entire movie, is the idea of the Incursion coming. And Reed Richards talking about, okay, so there is, when these universes interact, it causes an incursion. When we get to, at the end of the movie, Clea showed up and says, what you were doing caused an incursion, so we gotta deal with this now. So all of these things kind of lead to Incursion coming next. And with the knowledge that there's an X-Men 97 TV show on the way, that does indicate that's where it's going. And I think that's really why Multiverse of Madness doesn't feel quite like what people expected it to be. Because what we're at right now, and I've said this, I think I said this in my Miss Marvel review in episode 2 of Miss Marvel, I said, we are at a weird point for the Marvel Cinematic Universe where we're kind of back at phase 1. Where the Infinity Saga is over, we don't know where we're going next. What's the next big arc? Odds-on favorite, Secret Wars. But right now what we have is a bunch of TV shows and a bunch of, movies that are doing two things: setting up the multiverse, and setting up that the multiverse is this thing that is, dangerous, unknown, and could cause a lot of damage. And then at the same time, we're introducing, here are the new heroes, here are the people who are going to be on the field, to be used in future movies, who could potentially help out, and why they can do what they do. And every movie or TV show kind of fits into one of those two categories, where we're introducing a new character, we are telling you where a current character that you know already about is, or we're introducing you to someone entirely different, and it's tying you into this wider world of things happening, and setting up where we're going in the future. And with that, we have two movies left this year: Thor: Love and Thunder, which is going to fall into introducing a new character, and then Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which is also going to fall into that same category, because it's going to tell the story of Shuri becoming the Black Panther, and introducing Namor, and doing a bunch of other stuff, including, what's her name? Ironheart is going to be introduced, Riri Williams. So we have all of these things being introduced, and all of these things happening in this broader context of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the question becomes, well, what about the other movies? And Ant-Man's going to do two things. It's going to introduce Stature for a number of Young Avengers, and it's also going to bring Kang the Conqueror back. And Kang is going to be the bad guy of Incursion, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a post-credit scene in one of these. I wouldn't be surprised if we watch, what's it called? That other one, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it ends with the destruction of 838 as it's coming to collide with, As it's coming to collide with 616. But look, do I think that, we're going to get this earth-shattering thing? I think that, and the thing is, the problem with doing this type of story is that if they do, and they do Incursion as Avengers 5, as Avengers Incursion, then we know what's going to happen. There are no real stakes, because what it's meant to do is bring everything together for one cohesive universe, and then move forward from there. What's the next step from there? Moving into the next thing. And I think that is going to be the big issue going into the next phase, going into phase 5, where it's going to be, we're going to continue doing what we're doing. We're going to continue moving characters around the board and moving characters into position to take bigger roles. I wouldn't be surprised if they announced Captain America. Captain America 4 feels like a D23 announcement, not a San Diego Comic-Con announcement, so we'll see about that. But, we're going to get these big announcements in the coming weeks. I would say, by the end of, the summer, we'll know everything going forward for the next few years. But look, for Multiverse of Madness, I think Multiverse of Madness kind of worked within the confines of, we need to move forward with Phase 4 and move into this new world of Marvel. I think at the same time, it does shortchange the, It does shortchange the short term, where it's look, we didn't get a true Doctor Strange sequel that really delves into, the character Doctor Strange. I mean, yeah, we get repeatedly asked through the movie, people asking Doctor Strange, are you happy, are you happy? But that doesn't count. That's not going into the movie and being we're not exploring anything, we're just asking, are you happy? And, I don't think enough of that was explored in this movie to make it really worth something big, so to speak. I think that there's definitely there's definitely more to explore with the character. I don't think that this movie did enough of that. But at the same time, what it did do was open the doors for where the movie's going to go in the future. Even if this one didn't. That's why it's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and not, and it's like we're opening the door, we're showing you what's going on in the multiverse and why that's a problem. I feel like also Wanda was kind of shortchanged, and when I watched it this time, I kind of realized that if you didn't watch WandaVision, I feel like you are missing a lot. There's a lot of the movie that doesn't quite get adequately explained if you haven't watched WandaVision. I feel like it would have been interesting more if Wanda had, what's it called? If the Darkhold was intentionally showing Wanda this universe where Westview wasn't ruined, the Westview illusion wasn't ruined, and that was it. Whereas like these kids are also fake. And there's also the question of, and I know this is a dumb semantic question. I feel like I may have asked on the show before, but when we meet Wanda the first time, like when we meet her in the farm, and she is talking to Doctor Strange, she doesn't have any makeup. Well, she has. I mean, obviously has some makeup on, but she doesn't have the eyeliner, the smoky eye eyeliner thing, which leads me to a few questions. Because Strange, when he is doing his when he's doing his when he uses the Darkhold, he doesn't get the smoky eye eyeliner thing. He gets just a third eye in his forehead. So my question is, did the Darkhold do that to her? Like, did the Darkhold give her that makeup as part of its corruption? And more importantly, than did the Darkhold do that? If the Darkhold didn't do that, and she did it herself, was the instructions for doing that in the Darkhold, or did she look up a YouTube tutorial on how to do the smoky eye thing before going to attack Kamartaj? Like, I think it's an important question, and the people deserve to know the answer. I think it's an important question. Like, what happened, and where did that come from? So I'm interested to see how they're not going to answer that, but it is something that was one of those things that's like, did she like go like, all right, well she's not going to give me America Chavez, so let me go to let me get the makeup on. All right, so I got to dress nice for this. I got to put on the fucking Scarlet Witch outfit. And did she sit there and it's like, all right, now let me look up. I gotta complete the ensemble. So let me look at this and see what's going on and what's a good way to look if I'm going to go attack a temple. So we'll wrap up there for today. I guess after the movie theater, I'm going to see The Black Phone now, and then we'll be doing a discussion of that. Beware of spoilers later today. So until then, have a great rest of your week.